There we go. We have attending a number of people. Glad to have you all here. Um, I'm excited to go over this because this is one where we actually talk about um, working with people. So that's going to be great. Um, let's see here. Okay, got my notes all in place, and let's get going. Um, first off, I wanted to share with you this. This is from the National Association of Realtors. Every year, the National Association of Realtors does a survey. This was from 2015. I haven't been able to find the 2016. I don't know if it comes out at the end of the year or what, but I found this one. So we're going to run with this one. And as members of this National Association of Realtors, you can go on to NAR.org's website, log in with your NERDS number, the NRDS number, and access all this kind of information. But I wanted to show a few things we're going to talk about real quickly about buyers. This is a survey that they did between buyers and sellers. They sent out, I think I read on the summary, they sent out over 95,000 requests for this survey to be answered, and over 6,500 were returned. So almost a 7% return. They compiled all the answers and came up with a lot of interesting things. So here we are working on buyers. When we get to the sellers, we'll take a look at highlights on home sellers and their seller experience. Here's some really great pieces of information. And what I do with, there they are. Okay, some highlights here. Let's talk about this. How about this one? Detached single-family homes continue to be the most common home type for recent buyers at 83%, followed by 7% of home buyers choosing townhomes or row homes. Probably we knew that. We probably didn't know the exact amount. Oh, who just had that happen? So,
Sorry, that was me.
okay, no problem. We've all done that once before. On the second violation, you get flogged. Okay, so just a heads up on that. Here's something I thought was really interesting. There was only 14 miles difference between the one they purchased and the home they moved from, whether it's renting or selling. The average was they only moved 14 miles. So most of your home buyers are within 14 miles of your listing. How about that number? I found that kind of interesting. Okay, we're going to get rid of that highlight. We're going to talk about buyers specifically. 42% of recent buyers, the first step that they took in the home buying process was to look online at properties for sale. That was the highest percentage. It was only 14% of buyers contacting a real estate agent first. Other answers in this category were driving around looking at for sale by owners. Looking for sale signs, asking their friends. But the biggest percentage was looking online. 78% of the buyers found their real estate agent to be a very useful information source. Online websites were seen as a very useful information source also at 82%. So as much as we don't like them looking on the internet at those sources, we're right in there with them, and they're still going to go to Zillow even though it's inaccurate in its pricing. But they did find the real estate agent as useful. Let's see what else we had here. 87% of home buyers recently purchased their home through a real estate agent or broker, and 8% purchased directly from a builder or builder's agent. That number is significantly up from the low of 2001, which was 69% of buyers used an agent. So it's been climbing ever since 2001. Here's a good piece of information. About 70% of buyers only interviewed one agent to help them on their search. We're going to come back to that thought when we talk about what we're going to do to find buyers. And 88% of buyers said they would use their agent or recommend their agent to others. Wow, 88%. I'm going to highlight that one and keep that one there. And 87% purchased directly. We're going to keep that one highlighted. And here's 41% used an agent that was recommended, referred by a friend, neighbor, or relative. Okay, important numbers. Because what are we going to talk about today? Well, you got the worksheet in front of you. So let's go to the worksheet. Those are my granddaughters. Don't get jealous. Let's go to the database and first-time homebuyers worksheet. You're going to fill in some blanks here. How's everybody doing today, by the way? Everybody having a great day? I've been having a great day. So I'm going to work right now off of this piece of paper. And we're going to go with, how do you find buyers? Finding buyers is always an interesting chore. Finding any of your clients, buyers or sellers, you have to know where to find them. So here's where we're going to go first. What do you think number one would be? I got 9 things listed here. What do you think number one is? Anybody? Family. Okay. It's in that category. Yes. Any other guesses? I'm gonna give you this one. Friends and family. Number one place to find buyers. That's why I had you add your friends and families to your database. You need to make sure that they know that you sell real estate. Number one, friends and family. I'm gonna make that bold so it stands out. So write that down. Friends and family, they're number one place to find buyers. What was the number we saw here? 41% of buyers use an agent that was referred to them by a friend, family, or neighbor or relative. Wow. Okay. What do you think we could add to that? How about past clients? We can add to that category as well. Friends, family, and past clients. Number one source for finding buyers. Any questions on that one? What do you think number two would be? It ties in a little bit with that, but it is a different exercise, different sphere of people. Any guesses? There you go. I'm going to give it to you. Networking. Networking is a very important key. When we say networking, what comes to mind? This is the part where I'm going to wait for you guys to answer. Friends. We got friends, family, and past clients. What is networking? Social media. That's actually going to be a whole different category. So you're going in the right direction, just a little premature with that one. That was Margot. Anybody else got anything? You can either get online and say it, or you can type it in. What is networking? Yes. Okay, Paula said going to events. Networking is actually being face to face with people and establishing relationships with them. Community HOA can certainly be, as long as you're not on the board. But going to the HOA meetings, absolutely. How about church? Now, not your best friends and family at church, but other people at church. There are Rotary clubs. There's all sorts of charitable groups. Working in a homeless shelter. Now, of course, the homeless aren't the people that you're trying to get. It's the people that you work with there. Working on a committee with the city. There's actually professional networking groups. United Way, being on a United Way committee and talking to people at the United Way. Absolutely. How about this one? I was part of a group called Business Network International, otherwise known as BNI. And there's LATIP, and there's all sorts of other groups that you can be a part of. Toastmasters is a group where you practice presentation and speaking in front of others to get better at it, but they also become your professional networking group. Okay. Now, I was part of this BNI group. The beauty about BNI is they only allow one person per business category. So if anybody actually wants to get into a BNI group, I'll tell you how to do it. But basically, you almost have to start a group with an insurance agent and a mortgage person and probably an accountant, because there's never an opening for their local chamber functions. Absolutely. That's another great one. Thank you, Matt, for that one. These are networking opportunities for you to get belly to belly, face to face, exchange business cards. You're not forming a great relationship just because of this meeting. Okay. There's a few steps to the process, but these are become other business professionals. Now, at a Chamber of Commerce, you're going to go there. There's going to be 10 insurance agents. There's going to be 5 lenders. There's going to be 5 realtors and 6 bankers and another bunch of assorted business people. Okay. You might want to talk to your favorite insurance guy. You might want to have your favorite lender go with you, but it's the other business people you want to meet. You want to meet these people, whether it's at a chamber function or it's a BNI or whether it's people from church, and you invite them to meet with you for a cup of coffee. You're not trying to, you don't have to buy them a big lunch or anything like that, but just, hey, after you meet them, you send them, me, I'm going to tell you, write a little note saying it was really nice to meet you the other day, or nice to talk to you at the chamber function. Hey, let's get together for coffee sometime soon. Sign your name, throw your card in, send it to them, and then about 5-6 days later, you call them and say, hey, Charlie, let's get together for a cup of coffee. Let's meet at the Starbucks or the Pete's or whatever you want to do, wherever it is, or whatever you want to do. Okay? And you're going to get to know each other better at the private one-on-one meeting. You don't get to build the relationship at chamber functions. You do that one-on-one. You use the social event to meet the people that you want to get to know better and use that to then invite them to meet. These are a great source of referrals, especially when you refer them first. And you got a lot of blank spaces on there. Let me tell you what a referral is. This is what people think a referral is. A referral is, hey, Ron, I bumped into a buddy of mine and I told him to give you a call. He's looking for a house. That is not a referral. That is still something you say thank you for, but it's not a referral. Here's what a referral is, and this is what you're going to do first. Say like you meet an accountant and you want to, kind of be on his list of people he refers, or one of the local business owners. You're going to say to them, hey, I'd like to refer people to you, and if I find somebody who does what you do, auto mechanics. There's another great one. Get to know your local auto mechanic. If you use the dealer, well, get to know your favorite guy at the dealership. But you're going to say, I'm going to send them to you. And here's what you do. The first time you have a chance to send somebody to somebody, one of your friends to whatever industry or business you're talking about, You're going to talk to your friend and say, oh, you like quilting. I know of this great quilt shop over here in wherever it is, you know, and I know the owner, Sally, she probably has exactly what you're looking for, you know. You should probably call her. Hey, you know what? I got a better idea. Why don't I call Sally and ask her if she has it? And if she does, is it okay if she just calls you and tells you about it? And when they say yes, bingo. And you immediately call Sally, tell Sally about this potential customer, and you give Sally, the potential customer's name and number, what they're looking for. She calls Sally. Who's going to follow up on that whole conversation? Is it going to be the person who said, hey, call my friend Sally, and you give her her phone number, or is Sally going to follow up? Who is sure shooting going to follow up on that? It's going to be Sally, of course. So that's how you give a referral. You tell them about the business, and then you ask them if it's okay if I have the friend at the business, give them a call. Then you call that agent, and you want to train your clients to do that same thing. You don't want them to say, hey, Ron, I gave your name to my buddy. His name's Pat. He'll be calling you. How do I get a hold of Pat? I don't know how to get a hold of Pat. And if I go, hey, well, can I have Pat's number? Well, I don't know if he'd want me to give you his number. That's going to make it a little more difficult. So what you want to do is train your client to say not only, hey, talk to my friend Ron or Margot or Eric, but hey, now I think about it, would it be okay if I just had Eric give you a call? Or if I had Margot give you a call to follow up? And if they say yes, then you are green-lighted. Your client's now green-lighted to call you, give them their name and number of their person. You're gonna make this work. Practice this. Work at knowing how to give a referral and get a referral, and teach your clients how to give a referral. Okay. Again, why is networking in there? Because 41% are referred by somebody. And if they're a past client, 88% would recommend their agent. So you need to stay in contact with them. Okay, number 3. What do you think the number 3 place to find clients, buyers is? It's going to be online. This is not your social media online. This is your web presence or your mobile app presence. Okay? What am I talking about here? Well, let's go back up here. What did we say? 42% started looking at their properties online. This is why people are paying Zillow, because people go online. Now, I'm not recommending you pay Zillow. I'm recommending that you have your website, and we use, when you take a listing, you use that listing on, we automatically push it to about 100 different websites. And through the virtual show, through AmeriFirst Financial, we again push it to so many websites. You're going to be everywhere. So they're going to find your listings, and then they're going to contact you to get more information about the property. So that's where I come up with that one as number 3. Number 4. Margot had this one. Social media. This is your Facebook, your business Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter accounts, whatever you want to do, Instagram, whatever you're doing, you got to be out there. And this is again targeted, this is a supplementary to targeting friends, family, past clients. Would you agree that that's pretty much who's on your social media? Friends, family, past clients. So this number 4 really reinforces number 1. And it's subtle because they don't have to be talking to you or see you face to face, but they're going to get the little blast that you just put out. They're going to quickly look at it. They may read the article, they may not, but trust me, you are burning into their psyche, into their thought process, your name when the subject of real estate comes up. Okay. Number 5, it's been around forever. Sign calls. Now, if you don't have a listing, you don't have a sign call. So this really puts the emphasis on try to get some listings. It's amazing how you get listings. I mean, you get listings and you get buyer calls because now you have more stuff online. You can also do open houses. So even if you don't have listings, try to find an agent that will let you do an open house. Who are your best bets? Listings in your area that you want to work that are vacant and have a listing agent who is not immediately in the area. I repeat, vacant houses and listing agents who are not immediately in the area. If I had a listing agent, if I was going through and I said I want to do it in San Marcos, and I look up there and find a number of vacant houses, and I find a guy up in Newport Beach area, trust me, I'm going to call him and say, hey, can I do an open house at your listing, in the next few weeks? And he's going to say, yeah, because one, it's not disturbing the tenant or the homeowner. He doesn't want you talking to the homeowner. You're not going to. There's no one there. Number two, he's probably not doing it every day of the week, every Saturday or Sunday. So you can say, hey, I'd like to do it on a Saturday or Sunday, and they will let you do it. You're going to probably have to make 6 or 7 calls before you get a taker. Call early in the week if you want to do it for that weekend, but even if you don't get it for this weekend, set it up for the following weekend. Sign calls, open houses are number 6. Number 5. Number 6. Talk to everyone you meet. Talk to people. Remember we talked about last week, you're in a contact sport. You have to make contact with people, and you got to win them over. That's what you're trying to do. Number 7. This one is mailings or door hangers. We talked last week about some of the different ways to do farming or stay in contact with people. One is a 12 direct where you're hitting a neighborhood over and over once every month. You're going to hit some rental houses. So one of the things I would tell you to do if you're going to do a 12 direct is not only get the from your favorite title person a list of all the names and addresses, even if you're going to go door to door yourself and put a door hanger or a flyer on the door. You want to find out who is the absentee owners in there, because what you're going to do is drop one on the doorstep, and then you're also going to mail something once a month to the owner, who could be across town, northern part of the state, in a whole other state, could be in another country. But you're going to also mail to that homeowner. Okay, so if I had 100 homes, there's probably going to be maybe 10 to 12 of them that are non-owner occupied. That's 10 or 12 buyers. I'd like to know who are the renters who could become a buyer. I particularly would want to end up doing number 8 on them. Knocking doors. I gave you the 6 questions to use last week. If anybody wants them, we can do them again. But I would knock the doors on the tenants, because tenants might eventually be a buyer. Make sense? And again, I'm mailing to the absentee landlord because they may end up being a seller. And number 9 still works. Name tag. You can go to Elevate, which is the Equity Real Estate's back office for agents. And there's a place where you can buy name tags. Whenever you go out in public, you're going to do an open house, or even if you're going to the grocery store and you're dressed decently, if you're dressed like a schmuck, don't wear your name tag. But if you're dressed nicely, wear your name tag. People will start conversations with you. And then the secret of that is do not hand them your card. when they say, oh, I'd like something, you don't hand them your card. You pretend you don't have a card on you. You take out a piece of paper and a pencil and say, let me get your name and number and I'll send you my information. Get their name and ask for a phone number. Again, you've heard me say this last week and you'll hear me say this over and over again. You ask for a name and a phone number. Do not ask for email address. They'll want to give you the email address. And once they've given you the email address, they're not going to give you a phone number. So you definitely want to get name and phone number. Then if you say, oh, would email be okay? They'd love it. They're hoping you never call them, that you just email them. Then you can get their email address. If I'm at an open house or sign call, you're asking people to like the house, where they live, so on and so forth. When they give you more information, I always talk to people. I did this with a name tag. I'm in a grocery store. Someone says, hey, we're thinking about buying a house. Oh, great. What area do you want to be in? We want to be over, in Rancho Bernardo area of San Diego County. Great. How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms are you looking for? Well, we're looking for 4 bedrooms, 3 baths. You know what kind of price range you want to be in? Well, I probably want to be in probably about, under 600. Okay, great. Hey, if I, and this is where you're going to fill in the blanks. If I had a house that met that criteria, when would be a good time to show it to you? If I had a house that met that criteria, when would be a good time to show it to you? They're going to tell you when they're available. Now, if you can get to all this and you have their name and number, if you don't go home right away, get on the MLS and find 1 or 2 houses that meet this criteria and contact them right away, well, I don't know how I can help you. I mean, that's what you do. Now, they're going to say, well, why don't you email it to me? That's fine. Email it to them. But I would still call them and say, hey, so I met Steve and Jane at the store. I got one of their phone number. I'm going to call them and say, hi, Jane, this is Ron Bentley with Equity Real Estate. I just sent you an email with about 5 or 6 houses that match the criteria that you told me about. Why don't you go online and look at them, and I'll contact you tomorrow to see if any of them look good. That's all you need to say. You told them it's there. You told them you've sent it to them. They're going to go look at it. And you just got to follow up, and bingo, you're going to have a buyer. Any questions about how to find buyers? Anything? Anybody got any other thoughts on where to find buyers? One of our agents just said they received a referral today from a past client. Way to go. Past clients, great source. Anybody have anything else they want to share as a source of buyers? I've racked my brain, and these are the 9 that I came up with. And the first 4 or 5 are in order. The rest are not necessarily in any particular order. But anybody have anything? No? Okay. Let's go to the next page here. Let's go down to, you got a buyer. Now what? Well, try not to faint. Get excited. Call your broker. Say, I got one. So he knows that you're going to be calling all the time, asking questions. Congratulations. This is great. Buyers are the easiest ones to work with. And they're the quickest ones to work with. In fact, going back to our survey, I don't think it actually works this. Buyers typically search for 10 weeks and looked at the median of 10 homes. Okay. Here's what's interesting. The buyer who did not use the internet for a home search actually only looked for 5 weeks and only saw 5 homes. Actually, the internet slows it down. I will disagree with this. I will tell you, I've been licensed for over 30 years now. And when I first started, we just had Al Gore had not invented the internet, so we had to go to the office and get on the MLS, and we found the houses. The buyers looked at magazines and newspapers, and even though you had an appointment for Tuesday at 2 o'clock to show them houses, and you picked out 10, sure enough, they'd show up with a list of homes that they had seen in a magazine or newspaper, and wanted you to add those to the list. And half of them were already sold because, you know, those magazines have a shelf life of way too long, and they're accurate probably the day that the information was sent to the printer, but not even when the magazine came out. So it was frustrating. I probably showed on average about 25 homes, and it took about 3 or 4 weeks to show 25 homes. Today, because of the internet, because I'm always emailing houses and they're looking on the internet too, the reality is it takes probably still about 2 to 3 weeks to get a buyer under contract if they're actively looking, but I probably only show about 10 or 12 homes now. So about half as many homes in about the same amount of time, which is good. Saves on wear and tear in the car, and you can get it done a little faster. But good to know. By the way, when you take a listing, 87% of the buyers found the photos to be the most important thing. 84% found the detailed information was also very useful. But they start their search and they decide yay or nay on seeing the house, by and large, on the photos. Take great photos. Get a professional photographer if you need to. They're not that expensive anymore. Get good photography on your listings. Okay, back over to here. So here's a conundrum. You're going to get busy eventually, and you're going to have more than one buyer at a time. How many buyers do you think you can really work with at one time? Any ideas? This is where you guys type something or pipe up and say something. 3. Okay, we got one agent says 3. You're probably right. Any other guesses? I mean, it also depends on whether you're a part-time agent, full-time agent. Any other guesses? Well, I'll tell you my experience. 3 was always my best number. I've had sometimes 4 and 5, and it was hard. It was hard to work with that many because they typically wanted the same time frame to go look at houses. It's just really hard to do that. If you have some that might be early in the process and just looking online, then yes, you can do it. But actively going out and showing property, 3 is probably most people's maximum. So how do you decide which ones to work with? In fact, even if you're getting one, well, if you get one, don't pay too much attention to the qualifiers, just work with them. But if you have more than one, you need to take a look at and decide how are you going to decide to work with them. Here is the things that I use to decide. First is urgency. How quickly do they have to buy? The more urgent they are, the higher up on the list they go. You know what, Ron? I'm in town to buy a house this weekend. Guess what? I'm canceling everything else. We're going to see houses till they buy. I'm done. That's the guys I'm working with. Okay? Who has the ability to buy? That means pre-approved or pre-qualified. I prefer pre-approved. Anybody know the difference between pre-approved and pre-qualified? They'd like to share with us what the difference is? Well, let me tell you real quick. Pre-approved is they have submitted documentation to the lender. They've run their credit, they've proved their income, they've proved their employment and their deposits. Everything's been done. They're approved, ready to go, subject to finding a house. Pre-qualified is I called and talked to a loan officer. I told him what I made. I told him what I think my credit score is. And he said, I think you can buy this much house. Which one would you rather work with? A pre-approved or pre-qualified? Pre-approved. That's exactly right. Pre-approved. For those of you who have met Bruce at AmeriFirst Financial, they go pre-approved one step further. They have a guarantee, a $10,000 guarantee, that if they pre-approve you and issue the guarantee letter, if you do not close, they will pay the buyer $10,000. And when you're in a bidding war with other buyers to a seller, you may want to tell them that they will assign the $10,000 to the seller if they don't close. That really gives real assurance to the seller that the buyer they're trying to go into contract with can actually perform. Great way to go. Get them pre-approved. Okay. Here's one that may not be readily something you think about. I would help if I could type. Reasonable goals or expectation. Okay. So I have a buyer. Ron, I am ready to buy right now. I have cash in hand. I am ready to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that overlooks the Pacific Ocean. I want it to be in Carlsbad or Encinitas or Cardiff, and I don't want to pay over $450. Well, for those of you who know that area, you would know there's nothing reasonable about that expectation. They're not going to find a pup tent on a piece of land with a view of the ocean for $450. They might find a mobile home in a park that doesn't have a view for under $450, but they're not going to find a nice house with a view. So that'd be somebody I would put down in my lower priority. The availability of the buyer. Well, Ron, I'm ready to go, but I can only do Saturday mornings between 8 and 10. That's the only time I'm available. Or I can only do Friday nights between 7 and 10 o'clock at night. Now that's going to be a little harder to get them into some of the houses. If I have 4 buyers to choose from and that's one of them, I'm not saying you don't work with them, but I would put them down low on the priority list. And will they take a hot sheet or the market update, whatever you call it in your MLS? You know, the little thing that sends them automatically, here's a new listing out of the MLS. Most people will, but I've got some that say they don't want it. Okay, well, you know, if you don't want it, you're not really anxious to go do this. I want someone who's really wanting to move forward. So that's where to find buyers, how to prioritize which ones you're going to work with. Last but not least, any questions about that before we move on to the last page? Any questions on any of that? Okay. Let's move on to the last page. I know you're probably tired of hearing me talk about databases, but I'm going to talk about it from time to time, and it'll be very short now. The fact is, you still need to always be looking at your database, making your calls. If you will call 2 to 3 times a week people on your list, if you will mail to them once a month, email to them something else once a month, you're going to get referrals from them. Now, I want you to take a look at your database this week. This is going to be your homework, and identify who are your top 20. Who are they? They have a relationship with you. They have or they will agree to refer you. Remember, we talked about one of the conversations you have is you call them and say, I want to send you some stuff from time to time. And you meet them and you talk to them and say, hey, by the way, you know, if someone asked you about real estate and we're asking about a real estate agent, would you agree to, would you recommend me? And then if they say yes, they've agreed to refer you. You want to have in your top 20 people that know people. Okay? While your grandmother has a relationship with you and she would agree to refer you, if she lives in the assisted living facility, she doesn't have access to people that are actively going to be using real estate agents. Would you agree? She's talking to other old people that are in an assisted living facility. She's not out and about. Okay, so when they have a relationship and they agree to refer you, you want them to be people of influence and activity. Maybe someone from church, maybe someone from the golf club, or someone from the Chamber of Commerce. You want to make these people your friends and make sure they have access to people. People that you talk about real estate with regularly. Those are the people that should be in your 20. People that you've built a trust-based relationship with. Again, these can be past clients. Again, they have high visibility. Someone with which you are able to trade prospects. That's what the networking is about. I mean, I have no problem asking somebody. Now, the first time you do this, it's going to feel awkward, but do it. Get people's commitment. When you meet these people and you're at a social event, you've met them one-on-one, you go, you know what? I would love to send referrals to you. Are you comfortable sending referrals to me? If they say no, then don't send them referrals. Find someone else in that business category. So if your mechanic says, no, my brother's a real estate agent, I'm going to send him to him. You say, okay, I understand. Hey, if my brother was an agent, I'd do the same thing. Go find another mechanic. Okay? And again, maintaining your database. After you create it, you're going to meet more people. Be sure to add people to them. Add them to the list, but don't exceed. You can have a lot of people on the list, but don't have your A's or your number ones and your B's be more than 300 people. You can't have more than 300 people on your top list. You can't contact them all. You can't do pop buys. You can't really reinforce that top tier relationship with more than 300 people in the course of a year. As you work your relationships, you're going to drop people down. You may move them from an A to a B, from a B to a C. Okay, if they become a D, you may want to think about removing them completely from your list. But if they're A, B, and C, you work them. Remember, the system is mail them something, call them from time to time, stop by and see them, move them up and down your list. Your database will still provide you, and always has, always will. These relationships will provide you with about 40 to 50% of your buyers. It just happens that way. So, that's today's class. We're going to talk about open houses and further working with buyers again next week. Oh, actually, we're not going to have a class next week. I apologize. It's Labor Day weekend. I'm going to take the day off, spend some time with my family, maybe go to the beach, do a barbecue. But be thinking about this. You got plenty of things to work on for the next 2 weeks. Any questions? Anything specifically you want to talk about? Eric?
All right, Ron, so I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
So this is just an example. So I currently have a buyer that I've had as a buyer for, I'd say the majority of the year, and they just like failed to engage. Like we've actually gone looking at properties once, like this was back in March, and they're still active in pursuing something, but it's like they're just waiting. So would you just keep showing them properties if they show interest, or what would you do?
Okay. What are they waiting for?
It's like they're waiting for something that, like kind of like you said, that I don't think they have realistic expectations because they're trying to find something in Carlsbad area that's close to the beach, but yet they're not willing to spend more than, say, like $500,000.
And what is there available?
And that's the other thing too, is that their availability has been minimal.
No, but what's actually available to show them? Is there much at all?
Oh, it's available. So there's been condos, but not really single-family homes. So while they're preferred a single-family home, the condos that they see, they're usually like, oh, the HOA is too expensive.
Right.
And it's like, well, that HOA fee is probably actually reasonable.
Yeah, but you can't convince them of that because they've already convinced themselves what they want to pay.
Yep.
As a famous real estate trainer once said, always ride the horse in the direction that it's going. This is a great question, by the way. These are um, conditions that they've set upon themselves in their own head. And you're not going to be able to overcome them. Only they can overcome them. You become, if you start arguing against their thought process, they'll drop you. Does that make sense?
Oh
So,
yeah, definitely.
okay. If you have a bunch of people, don't spend a lot of time with them. If you've got nobody else, stay in contact with them. That's what I would do. You know, but I'd be working on getting some more buyers. I'd make sure I sent them, even though you probably have them on a hot sheet and they get the list. I would reach out through a text or an email real quick on maybe Thursday. Say like, hey, by the way, anything you want to see this weekend, or a day or two in advance of when their normal time is that they're available. You said they don't have great availability. I would just touch base with them. Hey, anything you want to see this week? You know, I'm available. You know,
Okay.
On Tuesday. You know, restate the time that they've told you they're available. I'm available at this time to show you. So you're staying engaged. You're showing them the willingness to serve and help them, and they're just saying no.
All right, yeah, that'll work.
Okay,
It's actually a coworker of mine, so I see them all the time. So
there you go. So yeah, they're looking for the needle in the haystack, and they're only going to decide that they're not going to find the needle in the haystack when they decide it's not available. One of the things I've done in the past is after I worked with them for a while, I actually sit them down and say like, you know, but they're doing this already. Yeah, and you can probably say this to them. You don't have to sit down with them face to face like well you used to have to do that. But just say like, hey, you've looked all over the internet? Are you seeing anything that I'm not showing you? I mean, I'd really be interested. I'm just reading a note from one of the other people and what you told me. Okay. Um, Also, one of our agents, Matt, just told me, remind you about one thing that happened with him. He had a buyer that went into a 799 open house. He's working with, he or she is working with Matt, and they said, "Hey, we really love it. We want it, but we don't want to pay that much. So let's offer 750. This house has been on the market 7 or 8 days. It's the first public open house. They want to make an offer at 750. So my agent said, "What do I do?" And my statement was, well, ultimately, you do what your buyer wants you to do because you want to win them over. You want them to know that you're their advocate, that you want to represent them. At the most, you may take a look at, you may say to them, well, great, I'll be glad to do that. But you understand it's only been on the market for 8 days. And according to the market analysis, and I'll send you the whole market analysis, it is pretty fairly priced. How do you want me to proceed? So you give them a little bit of more. I'm going to say it's more like information to think about versus opposition to doing it. But then you ask, based on this, how do you still want me to write the offer? Yes, write the offer. Then when you present the offer, it's a real touchy thing on how you present a bad offer. Would you agree? That you don't want to lose face with other agents in the area. You want them to think, oh, gee, this guy or this gal writes terrible offers. But you simply say as you send it over, you send it over to him, you call that agent. This is one that's very important that you call the agent and try to talk with him directly and say, I want you to understand that my client has instructed me to write this offer. That's important that you let them, you say those words. Most other agents know that you didn't tell them it would go together. They're telling you what to write and you were kind enough to do it for them. And I've sometimes say, my client has asked me to make the offer here, and they're awaiting your response. Please respond however your seller sees fit. And that basically is code for I'm expecting you to counter me pretty high, and I know that. But did I actually say that? Could I be taken into court and say, I said my buyer is writing a crappy offer and I expect you to counter me really high? Of course I never said that. That would not be representing my client properly. I'm representing my client here. They've asked me to write this offer at this price. We anxiously await the response of your seller, however they see, on however they want to proceed with this offer. Very professional, but most professional agents would actually know what you meant. It's the code. Okay, kind of like the pirate code. Great. Hey, thanks, Matt, for reminding me. So always remember to represent your client the best you can. You have to win them over. The old saying, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's how you show how much you care. I will write your absolutely ridiculous, stupid offer. No problem. Be glad to do it. You don't say it that way to them, but that's what you're doing. And when it gets rejected, and quite frankly, I've done this, where I had a client that just doesn't really seem to understand what the market is. And we're in a seller's market today, no doubt about it. And let's you're over about 2 million. But I'm going to write offer, and they're going to get turned down. Finally, the buyer's going to say, how come my offers are not being accepted? I said, oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you asked. Now I can tell you. You're writing an offer that can't be accepted. This is a seller's market. They're going to get their asking price. In fact, let's go back and look at some of the houses you passed on, and one or two of them have closed now, and we can see that they got the price they were asking for. So, the problem is you're trying to get a deal in a marketplace that is not selling deals. The deal is for the seller, not for the buyer in this marketplace. That's when you can finally be blunt and straightforward with them. Okay? When they've asked you, why are my offers not being accepted? Any other questions or anything? I sent an email out, and if I'm not hearing anything else, anybody else have anything? I just sent an email out just before this class, and I was talking about. I'm showing it here. I'm looking at title insurance. Who gets to pick it? And the law is very clear, and I said it in there. You'll read this law. It says that basically the person who pays for the title insurance policy, meaning the owner's policy, gets to pick the company they're buying it from. And while the buyer can then turn around and pick the lender's policy from whoever they want, typically you're going to get the best price from the company that's already issuing the owner's policy. So it's pretty standard that we go there and do that. Also to call the agent and ask if he has. Oh yeah, that's right. On that previous example I gave you, Matt reminded me. The other thing I told him to do is first call the listing agent and ask if there were other offers on the property, as a backup for information to tell the seller. I mean the buyer. In this case, you're right. Thanks for reminding me, Matt. Yeah, I've asked. I can say, okay, you asked me to write this offer at $750. I've called the listing agent and didn't tell him what you were going to offer, but I asked him before I wrote the offer, are there offers in on this property already? And he said he already has two that he's but he's going to give it a few more days to get other offers. So do you still want me to write your offer at $750? Or he says, yeah, we've actually got a few, but they were low and we rejected them. And you can say, well, how low is low? Now again, the law is we can't tell you exactly what the other offer is, but we can say it was a little bit off a list price, not much, but it's very early on and we want to get our list price. That's another thing you can go back and tell the buyer that wanted to offer a ridiculous offer. You can say, look, I talked to the listing agent and they told me that they've already turned down 3 offers that were just below list price. That at this point they're only interested in a at list price offer. So again, how do you want me to proceed? I'll still write your offer if you want me to. Most people, when they're told that information, that you've actually talked to the listing agent and found out what they're looking for, most of them won't ask you to buy it, to write the offer, but you've done your homework, you've got back to them, and you've told them that you will represent them. So way to go. Okay, now this last thing here. I just was doing this. I read an actual case history. I'm one of these weird guys that actually wants to read what the court said. This is actually the decision from the court I was reading here. RESPA section 9. It's actually section, if you read section United States Codes 12 U.S. United States Code section 2608. No, yeah, 2608, I believe it was. actually has the actual line. Anyways, it's in the email I sent you. And I sent it out to everybody, just, asking me, okay, who gets to choose the title? And here it is, section 12, United States Code 2608. It says no seller no seller's property that will be purchased with the assistance of a federally related mortgage. That's any loan that's a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, VA. I mean, if they're using a standard loan that can be sold on the secondary market, it's a federally related mortgage. So, no property that's using one of those loans shall require directly or indirectly as a condition to selling the property that title insurance covering the property be purchased by the buyer from any particular company. The key word is purchased by the buyer. The seller can't make the buyer purchase it from a particular company. Well, as I said here in the RPA, if the seller is paying for the title policy, this law doesn't apply at all. If the seller is paying for it, the seller can dictate where they want it to go. It's as plain and simple as that. The law says nothing about escrow costs. So, again, whoever's paying the escrow should have that right to pick where it's going to be. Even with the new Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's rulings, this hasn't changed. I've seen no opinions other than what I've seen here. I've checked case law as I was looking at right here, reading the actual Hopkins Horizon ruling from 2008, and they ruled in favor of the seller because they paid for the policy. And even though they required that the buyer buy the owner's the owner's policy researched by their firm, they didn't have to buy it from them, and they ended up doing it. So they ruled in favor of the seller and against the buyer who was suing, you made me buy it from a particular company. Bottom line, on our RPA, if the seller's paying for title, they get to pick the title company. If you're saying the seller's going to pay the escrow fee, they get to pick the escrow company. Plain and simple. Makes sense. Who's paying for it gets to decide where it's done. It's as simple as that. Anything else that you guys want to go over tonight? I'll see you in 2 weeks. Any other questions? All right. Make it a great week. Be safe. Have a good and happy Labor Day weekend. And we'll talk about open houses and working with buyers on class number 5. I look forward to seeing you soon. In the meantime, if you have any questions, as always, give me a call.